So the absolutely coolest thing about Gundam Seed has to be the backpacks. The backpacks are awesome. Those packs, sheer awesome brilliantness. So in order to test out the compatibility of the Blast Impulse right here, I got a dream team of master grade pack wearing seed kits. So in here I've got the Strike version remaster with the Isles Striker pack, the master grade Lucas's Strike Gundam with the IWSP, the Master Grade Impulse Gundam Blanche with the Destiny or Silhouette pack, and the Master Grade Astray Noir with the Noir Striker pack. So of course I'm going to use all of these to test the compatibility of this kit right here. The Master Grade Force and Sword Impulse. Yeah, I don't have those. But anyway, here we go. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another Gunpla review, and today I'm taking a look at the Master Grade Blast Impulse Gundam. As you can tell from the box right there that this is 100% a P-Bandai only kit, and because of that, this video right here would not be possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Bai. So if you do want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. As usual, 1,000 yen off your first order. And just in case you forgot or you missed it, there is a giveaway going right now for the Real Grade CROSSBONE Gundam, the premium Bandai version, which is the X2. So that'll be running for maybe another day or two, so if you want to win that, get in now. I'll put the details down there in the description. But anyway, on to the review. So anyway, this right here is what you're gonna get once you snap this together. There is a little bit of panel lining towards the front, as I usually do for these reviews. As for the nubs, however, as usual for these reviews, I do not clean them up, so if they are there, you will see them, and in general, they are on the surface like older kits are, but I will just say that they're not all that bad, really. I know the Master Grade Impulse kits have always been fan favorites, and I can really see why. This was an extremely simple build, it didn't take very long at all. Like I said, I've done no nub cleanup, but there's nothing to really see on here. Cleanup is very minimal. Of course, it does go without saying that I have taken off the Blast Silhouette pack. We'll take a look at that a little bit later on in accessories. For now, let's just take a look at the suit itself. Of course, this right here being a premium Bandai kit is just a color swap of what we would have seen before. This is a direct color swap of what we would have seen before with the Force Impulse and the Sword Impulse, neither of which I have, so I will just pop them up on the side there so you can see. And I'm sure a lot of people are super disappointed at how long they had to wait for the third version of this particular Master Grade, and the fact that when it did come out, it was premium Bandai. Definitely odd, and definitely, in my opinion, a terrible move by Bandai. Seriously, make two normal and then make one premium Bandai? That is lame. But trying to ignore that fact, this is definitely one beautiful looking Master Grade. There's one thing I absolutely adore about this, and one thing in particular I don't particularly like at all, and that would be those hands. I absolutely hate this style of hand. It never ever looks good. So that is the type with 3 fingers attached like so. The index finger is free and the thumb is free, but they're always curved like this right here. They never ever look good and can barely hold any weapons. However, that good thing I was talking about is this super slender, long-legged silhouette that the Force Impulse has. A lot of Master Grades these days are kind of getting a bit homogenized in their looks. They're all the same sort of bulky, boxy, generic Gundam kind of look. That it is nice to see something that is quite sleek and, I don't know, very anime looking compared to a lot of the more, once again, blocky and real robot-y looking stuff we're getting a lot of the time. This is definitely a breath of fresh air right here. Or should I actually say a breath of stale air? This is technically a 12-year-old kit now. It came out in 2008, but still, all I can say is I love the silhouette of this thing. It looks great. Man, I really just have to point out just how awesome this mobile suit's glare is. Look at that. The eyes catch the light perfectly. Usually I have so much issue actually trying to get the light to hit the little stickers in there, but there's something about the head on this guy. Something about the head on the Impulse that is just so damn awesome. Shame about those big old hands though. Anyway, it's size comparison time. First up, there's 2 variants of the Master Grade Granddaddy, that is the RX-78-2 3.0 and the RX-78-2 The Origin. So as you can see, one slender boy. Next up, there it is side by side with 2 absolutely random Master Grades off the shelf. That is the Master Grade Dynamis and the Master Grade Age 2 Magnum. Next up, there it is beside something a little bit more relevant. There is the Master Grade Isles Strike version RM, close that up, and the Master Grade Impulse Blanche, which is essentially pretty much the same mobile suit, just with some different parts, especially in the head. Lastly, there it is beside the Gunner Zaku Warrior. That is the last master grade that came out from Gundam Seed Destiny. And there it is beside the colossal master grade Fatsverka, which was the last full release master grade. So now moving on to what makes the Blast Impulse, and that of course is the accessories. Well, that and the fact that it's green and blue. But regardless, this is everything that you get with the kit. So there is actually a whole load of stuff in here. This kit does come quite packing. A set of water slide decals, the Blast Silhouette Pack, the Silhouette Flyer and the Core Splendor, Beam Rifle, Shield, Beam Javelin, 2 folding razors, this adapter section so you can use the mobile suit with striker packs, a pair of extra holding hands, a nightmarish amount of adapters and landing gears, and finally a 1/100 scale figure of Shin Asuka and Luna Maria Hulk. So let's get through all of this one at a time. So first off in here, the hands are exactly like I mentioned they were earlier on. That's the 3 fingers stuck together, the index and the thumb always curved. The option we have in here is technically, well, not necessarily an option because it seems more like it came spare on the runners than is actually for using with this kit. And it's a bit of a nightmare to get in too. Oh no. So this kit has that really annoying thing that when you try to use the forearm as leverage, it slides off. The armor actually slides off like this if you try to use it as leverage. Nightmare! Anyway, that is what it looks like attached, and this may or may not be used with some of the weapons, because in the instructions it just says, use this one. So as for the weapons we have in here, first off is the beam rifle, and this is actually quite nice for how old it is. I've seen more modern master grade beam rifles that look a little more boring than this. The only kind of down point would be the big old peg here on the side, the kind of H-shaped peg for attaching it onto the booty. It would be nice to have something that flips out and looks a little bit, well, less obvious than that right there, but still not too bad. As for moving parts, this sight can move side to side like so. We've also got a side to side moving handle down here, and that seems to be it. We've got a nice little red part here though. When that is not in use, it can be stored around here in this butthole, just like this right here. Pretty nice and a good secure connection. Next up in here then we've got the shield, and once again, just like the beam rifle, this is quite impressive. Some nice color separation on here, the white, red, yellow, and we also have some grey parts, and in general it looks very nice. It's quite simple round back. We've got a standard handle right here, this attachment point for attaching onto the forearm that can bend in and out like so, rotate at this peg right here, so fairly basic. But what's pretty cool is this whole thing opens up to another nicely color separated layer in there, so this is a very nice little shield. But once again, it is worth mentioning that neither of these are new. These did come, as far as I know, with the other Master Grade Impulse Gundams. So next up in the box here, and getting through the stuff that would have came with the older versions of the kits first, this right here is the Core Splendor. So we do have an adapter in here for using this with an action base that just connects in underneath, as simple as that. If you want to display it like this in flight. This does have a decent amount of detail. Once again, we've got a little pilot figure inside that clear cockpit, and it's in the same shade of white, blue, and red that we saw in the mobile suit. So this, of course, does attach into this section here of the Gundam, and just in case some of you guys are wondering if I'm actually going to do any of the transformations with this thing, hell no! They are the dumbest looking things I have ever seen before in a Gundam. I thought the wing things were bad with the shield on the front of the face, but these things are dumb as hell. What in the hell is that meant to be? That is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. That could never fly. That doesn't even look smart. Why did they even bother? Oh my god, that's... oh no. There's one for the legs too, but I'm not doing that, no way. So anyway, I digress. In order to get this into this, first we have to split this in half, which can actually be quite hard sometimes when the Core Splendor's inside of it. I've had a struggle or two to get it out. Anyway, just popping this then off here. It just folds down here, folds in once again. Off come these little dudes right here. The wings go in, slide all the way in, and that is definitely a simple but solid transformation right there. That then just pops down into the waist section like this, it actually hangs out the back quite a bit. Then the upper section then just attaches on. There's 4 pegs in there that hold this in place, which is a very, very secure connection. And there we go. Simple as that. Still not going to transform this thing though. So next up then in here we've got the silhouette flyer, which is somewhat similar to what we just saw, a kind of little jet looking thing. This is definitely a little bit more on the simplistic side, so it's made of fairly large segments of black and white, some grey, a little bit of red. Once again, we do have a little action base adapter for this if you want to display it in flight. That just slots into the hole just like so, and there we go. But of course, the main purpose of this is this right here. So before we attach this onto the mobile suit, let's attach it onto the silhouette flyer. So in order to do this, you just extend this rear section out like this, pop up the thruster, and then it just slides in there, as simple as that right there. So once again, that can just be popped up on an action base just like that if you want to display it in flight with the Blast silhouette pack attached. Also in here we do have some landing gears for using with this. I totally forgot we had some landing gears for the silhouette booster as well, but that's in the robot now, so can't do anything about that. But these are pretty awesome if you do want to recreate some of those iconic taking off poses. And hey, there's nothing wrong with some awesome extra options. So anyway, moving on to what really makes this kit unique, and of course that is the Blast silhouette pack. So this is pretty awesome, but I do feel color separation wise it is a little bit of a disappointment. I feel like there could have been some more gray layers, especially around back here in these thrusters. These are definitely previous level looking when it comes to a master grade. Again, it is not the worst, but I do feel it could have looked a little bit better back there. But on the whole, it still looks quite cool. Just those red sections, yeah, they really could have done with a little bit of extra dimension, I feel. Maybe paneling them up will make them look passable, but panelining in general does not make up for good color separation. However, we do get a lot of awesome moving parts. So we've got a simple double ball joint system right here for moving these big old cannons around. I'm not sure if this should be, well, hollow like that, or if this is just another cost-cutting, corner-cutting kind of thing or not, but I'm not a big fan of this look. I would have preferred if they were actually solid pieces. That does look a little bit cheap, but hey, once again, it is not the worst. Another thing I could complain about, I guess, is these opening segments right here, which is where the beam tridents should be stored, is again a little bit on the disappointing looking side. For one, you cannot put the beam trident in, take it out, or even a smaller version of it. It always has this little kind of permanent looking version of it stuck in there. Also, correct me if I'm wrong here, this does have 2 opening segments for those beam tridents, and we do actually get 2 beam trident sticks, or maybe a pair of chopsticks right here, but we only get 1 effect part. Technically, it just says to make 1, I guess it does just use 1 at a time, but it would have been pretty cool just to be able to have 2 of them. Technically, there's 2 in there? Am I wrong? Am I right? I don't know. Either way, another bit of a disappointment there. These cannons do have a couple of extra moving parts. This little section can pull out ever so slightly. We've got a pair of handles that pull out like so. We've got an opening flap down here on the bottom. And once again, I will say the fact that the detail in there is just cast in green does look a little bit on the cheap side. And the same does go for underneath these segments when they move up. There is some more detail in there, but it's just, once again, cast in green. Again, it feels a little bit cheap, but you can paint up those details yourself, I guess. It's just not very master grady. We also have a pair of cannons that can pull out up top here over the shoulders when they're attached onto the impulse. And around back, we do have a couple of moving thrusters. This one can move down and up like so. These ones can also tilt back like this, just like he was hovering over the water in the anime. But yeah, I think that is everything about this, besides throwing it on the Impulse Gundam. So anyway, the attachment of this is simple enough. We've got 2 holes up in the shoulders. This pops on into those like so. So as I'm about to put this up onto an action base so you can have a quick spin of what this looks like with these weapons attached, I'm going to mention this is the single worst action base adapter I have ever seen. This was a nightmare, absolute nightmare to get in, and it's not much easier to get out. Yeah, There we go. It pulls out like this, leaving a massive gaping hole in its taint. You then use this little segment here. You have a bit of a storage area for this part you just pulled out, but again, it's still a little bit on the awkward side. There we go, that's in. And then the action base attaches in here like that. Sure, it does feel very, very, very secure, but it just seems a little bit, well, I can see why Bandai gave up on it. But yeah, even with all my complaining, that is one strong connection right there, and he's not going to fall off of that. So when this is attached up, we can pop out these handles on the side here. The arms can reach back over, clip on into that slot fairly simply. And finally, that is what the finished Force Impulse will look like up on your shelf. And I have to say, even with a bit of belly aching about the Force Silhouette pack, a little bit about the way it attaches to an action base, this still looks fantastic. It's a big, bulky pack, so I guess it can kind of get away with the lack of detail. It is in the back, really, so you don't really see it all that much. You can detail that up yourself, some panel lining, some paint, it will look great, but it just isn't the same quality as the Impulse Gundam itself. It does feel like a little bit of an afterthought, and well, 12 years after the original release of the Force Impulse Gundam, I guess it is an afterthought. But yeah, I can't deny, once it's up on a shelf, up on an action base, it looks awesome. I absolutely almost forgot we do have the Trident as well. The stick is just, well, a fairly plain looking square-ish stick with a long slit down the side, which of course is where the peg in the hand can attach to. The top has a hole in it. In goes that effect part, which actually looks quite nice. I'm not sure how well this will show up on camera, but this does have glitter inside of it, which is pretty cool. Kind of fairly typical for a Destiny effect part, like something you would have seen in the Infinite Justice, but that's pretty cool. And that just slots into the hand anywhere along the length at all, as simple as that. So it's not the most, well, exciting looking weapon, but it is quite cool. And I also almost forgot, it does come with a set of switchblades, but I'm pretty sure all the Impulse Gundams came with these, so that is nothing new. But one thing we do get in here, which I think is quite awesome, is this little adapter segment that puts this different back onto it that has the typical Striker Pack slot. So that means it's time for a Striker Pack fashion show. So first off, coming from the Master Grade Isle Strike Gundam Remaster is the iconic Isle Striker Pack. And there we go, there's the Master Grade Force Impulse Gundam, rocking the most classic of classic iconic strike packs, which of course is the Isle Striker Pack. Fits perfect, looks good, color doesn't match so well, but hey, that's what paint's for. Next up then from the Lucas's Strike Gundam, and keeping it quite basic, is the IWSP, which must stand for I Won't Stay Put, because all the parts on this always fall off on me, and it's missing a few bits, and a lot of bits are broken. And yeah, it's already fallen to 1,000 pieces, so I'm gonna check if it fits, that's it. That's all I'm doing with this. According to the instructions, it does, so I don't even need to be doing this. Why do I subject myself to it? There we go. The IWSP fits, and although this thing looks awesome, it looks really awesome, it is the worst quality pack I have ever touched. Gonna have to glue these back on for the 50th time. Next up then, we've got the Dark and Foreboding Noir Striker Pack. This is actually coming off the Astray Noir, not the Strike Noir. So does it fit? Yes, it does. So there is the Force Impulse rocking the Noir Striker Pack, and this is what I really love about these different packs. They really do change the vibe of the mobile suit quite a bit. Of course, this is it just wearing the pack, not what the pack can do, not the weapons that are removable from it, etc, etc. It's just attached on there, and all in all, this does look pretty rad. Once again, these spins are just in case you're thinking of different kind of customizations you'd like to do with any of these kits. On to the next one. So the last pack we're going to be taking a look at is those angelic looking wings from the Impulse Blanche. This of course is the Destiny Silhouette Ore, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, do not mix this up with the wings from the Destiny Gundam, the Master Grade Destiny Gundam, because they are not identical. These have the standard Striker Pack attachment. So there it is with the Impulse Blanches pack, and of course this fits because the Impulse Blanche is essentially the exact same mobile suit in a different color. Of course it does come with the Destiny Impulse, the purple one as well, so it does come on both of those kits. So of course it fits, it looks awesome, and that is it then for those compatibility tests. So finally moving on to the articulation, and as usual, from the head down. Also I will mention about the build quality of this, or the build strength I should say. The inner frame of this is made from ABS plastic, which means it is super not gonna go anywhere on you. From a strength perspective, that's a good thing. So in general, the joints on this are quite basic. The head is a double jointed giggity, but it's not the greatest one around. This little collar section can block the head quite a bit because of this little lip section at the bottom of the head armor, but all in all it's okay, but it isn't great. There it is looking up, there it is looking down, and that's about all it can do with the side-to-side twist. At the upper arm here we do have a little bit of extra. This is from the transformation. It pulls out to allow the arm to come up like this, so it can reach up extremely high, but that does look like it might be a bit of a delicate joint in there, so beware. Besides that, we've got a bit of forward and back inside of the torso for the shoulder. The shoulder armor can move up and down independent to the arm. We've got the full rotation right there at the upper arm. A nice 2-point bend at the elbow that pretty much nets us a perfect bend. At the wrist, it's a mix between a ball joint as well as a hinge here for the hand, so that is pretty good. Once again, it is those 3 fingers, index, thumb kind of gig for the hands. Moving to the torso now, this little segment here can move up and around like so. We do have a opening cockpit here, so it opens up there and down there, just like so. There really isn't much in the lines of articulation here at the waist. Once again, it does have a core block system here, or the silhouette flyer. Wait a minute, no, core splendor, I should say, inside of there. So that means all we have is this ball joint down here. It does have a kind of pull gimmick that allows you to get a bit more, but I find it pulls off more than slides up. So that isn't the greatest, so that's what we get there. A bit of that, but, you know, it's alright, not great, and kind of weak. Probably the weakest joint of the kit right here. Moving down onto the skirting armor, this is a ball joint, so that moves up and down, a little bit of out and in there. Side skirt is that generic polycap that allows up and down, the swing forward and back. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This little segment right here can open up like so for sticking in those razors. Believe it or not, we've got a moving butt flap back here. Once again, this is a set of ball joints, so it does what ball joints do. As for the pegs in at the hips, there is no dropping or moving mechanism in the waist itself, so just your standard fare. Nothing wrong with that. And what that gets us is this kick up to the front, about parallel to the ground. Kick out to the back is pretty much parallel as well, a little bit less than parallel, I should say. As for the splits, the Impulse probably could pull off the splits if it wasn't for the side skirting armor, but with them there, it gets close to it, not all the way. Full rotation then at the upper leg right here. We have a 2-point bend for the knee. We have a bit of a sliding armor gimmick down here. It needs a bit of extra assistance at times, but we do have a sliding armor gimmick. The knee itself, when bent, isn't the prettiest thing around. You can kind of see into it there. It doesn't really look too mechanical or anything like that, but then again, that is not the biggest deal. There is a bit of a transformation in here, so this leg can somewhat bend in the reverse direction like this. I'm not sure how often you would actually transform this. I wouldn't transform it at all, honestly. So that is a little bit of a pain in the butt at times, but it's not hard to line up, really. We've got a thruster on the back of the leg here that can tilt up and down like so. We've got a moving piece of armor right here, just a simple hinge. And finally, throwing the foot down on the ground to test the functional movement. So without taking the foot off the ground, this is... wow. That's as far forward as it can go? Really? Really? Oh. It's not that impressive. Out to the back, well, it can go fairly far out to the back, but not to the front. I guess it's something to do with the little pistons it's put in there. I'm wondering, if I actually pop this out, will I get more articulation out of this? So let's see. With the pistons out of the way, yeah, it bends a little bit more to the front. Next up, as for the pivot, we've got there to there. So it is a little bit restricted. A lot of the armor and bits, like the pistons, do kind of get in the way of that functional movement on the ground. Lastly then, at the feet we do have a bend downwards at the toes, which is very, very nice. So yeah, the articulation on the blast impulse, or any impulse in general, is very, 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 very meh. I can't even do the usual panning shots here because it can't even stand up in a pose like this. This kit is extremely limited at the ab crunch, a little bit when it comes to raising the legs in here at the hips, and the side-to-side pivot, front and back movement at the ankles is pretty rubbish. Again though, this is a mobile suit that spends most of its time in the air, so I guess that's not too big of an issue. Anyway, that is it for the review. Of course, this is just a reissue of a kit that is 12 years old, harking all the way back to 2008, so I don't mean to be too mean when I give this right here silver tier. This is pretty much exactly what I would expect in general from a master grade kit. I would say back in 2008, this was blowing minds, to be honest. It is ahead of its time. Back in 2008, there was a bunch of other kits we would have been getting. That was actually before I was heavily into gunpla. I probably only had one back then. But yeah, it definitely does show its age when it comes to the articulation as well as some gimmicks. But still, I really did enjoy this kit here. If you've built the Force Impulse, if you've built the Sword Impulse, you know exactly what you're getting with this. As for the new Blast Silhouette Pack, it is a little bit basic looking, but it does everything you'd want it to. It's also fairly lightweight, so it's not going to weigh down your kit too much. And on the whole, it's a very, very enjoyable kit, and it is exactly what I'd expect from this grade. Just not necessarily as modern, I guess. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you want one of these for yourself, there is a link down there in the description. I got mine through Buy. If you want to win yourself a CROSSBONE Gundam, that's a real grade CROSSBONE Gundam, I'll throw the links down there as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more gunpla reviews, and I will see you next time. Of course, I can't end this video right here without the shout out to all of you who support me on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, like Craig Jury, Kaiser721, Forged Horizons, Bulwick, Tyler Sanders, Caleb Engelhart, and Hank Handsome.